Hi guys, welcome back. I am going to be taking you guys along for some food prep for the week. I have a 16-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and something that I have learned that toddlers and teenagers both have in common is that they both love to snack. So I try to have lots of healthy snacks on hand, and that's mostly what we're going to be focusing on today. Starting out, we are going to make sourdough fresh mill einkorn bread. I have been making sourdough bread for probably the last 3 years, but only in the last 6 months have I started to use fresh milled flour, and I absolutely love it. I love the health benefits of it. I can notice a huge difference. I use einkorn because it is the only wheat that has not been hybridized, which just means it hasn't been modified. So the gluten structure is easier to digest. And then we pair that with fermentation through sourdough, and yeah, I just can notice a huge difference and just how we feel when we use fresh milled flour. Using fresh milled flour has been a pretty big learning curve for me. I did not grow up baking a lot or like making bread or anything like this, so I've only learned how to do it in the last couple of years. And using fresh milled flour, it's just different. I will use a lot of recipes that just call for all purpose, and if you try to just switch out the all purpose with the fresh milled flour, like a 1-to-1 ratio, it will probably not work out. You have to more go by texture and just how the dough feels, which is something that I'm still learning. So I've definitely had a lot of flops in the process, but we are getting closer to being more confident when it comes to baking with fresh milled flour. I am using Farmhouse on Boone's recipe for sandwich loaf bread, and it says you can either use coconut oil or butter, and this was the first time that I've ever used coconut oil, and I would recommend using butter because I feel like you could really taste the coconut oil, and it was not my favorite flavor. And then also the recipe called for 8 cups of all-purpose flour, and I ended up probably putting in 10 to 11 cups of fresh milled einkorn. So that's just an example of, you just have to go more by the texture of things. You can definitely use recipes that call for all purpose, but yeah, just keep in mind that you will probably have to adjust the ratio some because it just acts different in recipes. But I will link all the recipes down below if you want to try out any of these. You can use a standing mixer. I would for sure have used one if mine didn't break a couple months back, which is sad because we have not replaced it since. But I'm still able to make all of the same things. They just take a little longer and it's a bit messier of a process. You don't need all the quote-unquote fancy equipment to make these things from scratch. As you can see here, I have a huge bandage on my finger, and that's because after I finished up my baking in the morning, me and Oakley did a little workout, and while I was in a plank, she grabbed my 20-pound weight and dropped it on my finger, which was very painful, and we thought for a second maybe she broke it, but it's like a week and a half later, and it's totally fine. Just have a big bulky bandage on it here in this video. There's probably a more proper way to form your loaf. I don't really care how it ends up looking. I care more about how it tastes, and my motto in the kitchen is good enough. I'm trying to get in and get out. I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. It is not the most beautiful loaf of bread I've ever seen, but it is nutritious and edible, and that's what we're going for. So I am happy with that. This is what it looks like at the end, and my kids absolutely love this bread. Elias actually wakes up every morning, and as soon as I pull him out of his crib, he's asking for honey bread. So I'll just put some butter and honey on this for the kids, and they love to have it as a little snack. The next recipe I am making is hummus. This is probably the easiest recipe I'm making today. It's just a few ingredients, and then you put it either in the blender or the food processor and blend it up. It is super easy and delicious. And has, decent protein in it. I find that sometimes by the end of the week, we don't go through all the produce that we bought. So we will eat it with leftover veggies or carrots because they're really affordable, or pretty much anything, tortilla chips, anything. My kids are huge dip kids, so anytime they have a dip on their plate, they're happy. And this actually only lasted 15 minutes because we had it for lunch and it was all gone by the end. So next time I will for sure be making a double batch. It is so easy and yummy and affordable. Next up, we are going to be making naan bread. We just started making these like a month ago, and I absolutely love having these on hand. They make for really easy lunches or even just snacks. We'll make flatbread pizza with them or just cut them up and eat them with hummus. The boys love to have butter and honey on them. You can make a wrap with them. They're just really versatile. And all that's in them is Greek yogurt, flour, baking powder, and salt. I did the math on them, and with the Greek yogurt that I use, which is the Kirkland brand organic Greek yogurt, it ends up being around 7 grams of protein per flatbread, which I feel like is pretty good. So we like to have these on hand. We always blow through them, and this is another one where I just need to start making a double batch every time I make them because we go through them so quick. The recipe actually just calls for regular yogurt, but when I made it the first time, all I had was Greek yogurt. And I actually prefer the flavor with Greek yogurt. We eat a lot of sourdough, so we're used to kind of that sour taste anyway. And so it kind of reminds me almost of sourdough. You could try making these with fresh milled flour. I just haven't. I find sometimes certain things are just better with all purpose. They just don't quite taste or hit the same. So I ended up just making these with all purpose, but I do plan to try and make them with fresh milled at some point in the future. I did a missions trip in India for 2 months and we had naan bread all the time. So it's kind of nostalgic for me. It brings me back to sweet memories of those days. And we probably do Indian once every 2 weeks-ish. And so we'll make naan bread for Indian night. These are super awesome to have on hand, make snacks and lunches really easy, and they taste really good. It's very similar to flour tortillas, so you just combine everything, roll them out, get some hot oil in a pan, and cook them for a couple minutes on each side, and that's it. It is a little time consuming rolling them out and all of that, but I find that it is just so worth it to have them prepped and on hand for easy snacks. Moving on to the next recipe, which is muffins. We are making cinnamon roll sourdough muffins. I pretty much always have some type of muffin on hand. I always double or triple the batch so that I have some in the freezer because we go through muffins so quickly. And in these muffins in particular, I add 4 scoops of the Equip protein powder, which is just a grass-fed beef isolate. It's unflavored, and I don't notice a difference in the texture. I've never noticed a difference. I add it into pretty much any muffin recipe, but a lot of baked goods I will add it just because I find that it can be a little higher sugar than I would like. Balancing it out with protein, it doesn't spike our blood sugar as much, and I just feel better all around giving that to my kids, knowing that it has a bit more protein in it. I will add all the wet ingredients into a blender and blend it up together because I find that when I just throw it together in a bowl, the protein powder clumps together and doesn't mix in super well. I am using the fresh milled einkorn in this recipe as well, and I just really like the flavor of einkorn. I find that it's like just a tiny bit nutty and is a little more chewy than all-purpose would be, so I really enjoy the texture. But you can mess around with fresh milled flour. You can do red hard wheat, soft white, a combination of all those things. I know people love spelt too, so you can try out different things. Einkorn it has like lower protein than other wheats, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I try to up that protein, like I said, with the protein powder. And if you want to try it out, I'll leave my discount code down below. I'm actually 4Xing this recipe today. This recipe in particular, I don't feel like makes that many muffins. It might make, in total, when I 4X the recipe, it makes 36 muffins. I feel like if you're just doing a single batch, I don't feel like that's worth my time. I like to prep a little more than that at a time, so I would recommend at least doubling it if you're going to go through all the work of making the recipe. With this recipe, you fill up the muffin tins like 1/4 of the way, and then you take your brown sugar cinnamon mixture, sprinkle a little bit on each one, and then fill up the rest of the muffin tins and then top with that same mixture, and it is just so good. Even with 4Xing this recipe, I feel like it doesn't make enough to get through a whole week. So sometimes I'll have to make muffins again to get us through a week. I have been making these a lot because they're not very messy. Like, we love blueberry muffins and chocolate muffins and all of that, but I just find that they're so messy. Maybe it's just because my kids are messy, but I feel like they get blueberries everywhere or chocolate everywhere. So these are pretty clean and easy to make. Everybody loves them. We are definitely not against buying packaged snacks. We do have a few things on hand just to make going out easier, but for the most part, I try to make all of our snacks at home and then we will just bring them out and about with us, which muffins are super easy to bring with you. I feel like they transport well. These ones in particular aren't super messy. So yeah, I love having them on hand for that reason. Here I am packing up half of them to put in the freezer. I probably could just keep them all on the counter because we go through them so fast, but I just like having them as fresh as possible. So I will put them in the freezer even if it's only for a couple of days and then pull them out as we need them. The rest I will put in this cute glass dome container that I thrifted, and it fits normally like 12 to 15 muffins. So I will put those out on the counter and it will take us 2 to 3 days to eat through all those, and then I will just replace them from the freezer, and that's how I find I can keep them the freshest. The next recipe we are making is granola. Granola, if you have not made it, is such a easy recipe to make and really affordable. I almost never buy granola anymore. I almost refuse to buy it because I realize how cheap it is to make at home, and I can control all the ingredients. So I am using my favorite glyphosate-free organic rolled oats, and then coconut oil, maple syrup, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of vanilla, and that's really all you need. You can add different things. You could add peanut butter, you can add nuts and seeds, you could also add some dried berries if you wanted, or chocolate chips, but I find that we just like it simple, not super complicated, and you just mix everything up, pour it onto some parchment lined baking sheets, and put it in the oven. Bake at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. Let it cool, break it up, and store it. We love to have it with yogurt and fruit, topped with a little bit of honey, but also we'll eat it like cereal with some raw milk. When I'm at the grocery store and I am debating if I should buy some type of pre-made packaged food, I look at the ingredients and the price. But then I also like to consider, is this something that I could make at home that really isn't super hard or wouldn't take that much time? Because obviously when you're buying something that is processed, you're paying for the convenience of it, you know? So I try to just take that into account, and granola is one where I feel like it just takes such little time. It has very few ingredients, and I just feel like it makes more sense to make it at home, especially because our family of 6 goes through granola so quickly. Like, we will go through this jar in 3 days if everybody's eating it. I find it's just so convenient to make. Its ingredients I normally have on hand that I really don't want to pay the upcharge that they're putting on that product, because I could so easily make it at home. The last recipe I have for you, I actually wasn't going to include this, but I had a little bit of fresh milled einkorn flour left. Fresh milled flour in general, if you do not use it within like the first 24 hours, it loses a lot of its nutrition. So I had a little bit left and decided I was just going to use it to make our favorite chocolate chip cookies. These are sourdough chocolate chip cookies, and I wish I knew who I got the recipe from. I actually don't. I've been using it for like 3 years. I will just write it down below, and if anyone knows who this recipe came from, please let me know so I can give them credit, because I really don't remember who I found this recipe from. These have all the same ingredients you would find in a normal chocolate chip cookie recipe, except you also add discard. And you can ferment these overnight so you get the health benefits of the fermentation, but a lot of times I will just put the discard in and bake them right away. I'm doubling this recipe, and I had about 2 cups of einkorn flour left, so then I just used a cup of all-purpose to finish off the recipe. These are my absolute favorite chocolate chips. I love this brand. The mega chunks are my favorite, but all they had were the mini ones when I went to the store last. And you just mix everything up. What I like to do is mix everything together and then roll them into little balls and freeze them so that they're fresh every time we want cookies. We have a little sweet tooth at the end of the night. I'll put 8 in a bag, and that is perfect for our family of 6. And we'll just bake them at 350 for 13 to 15 minutes, and they turn out perfect every time. And that is it for this week's food prep. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this kind of like food content, let me know, like this video, and I will continue to make it. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.